Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra streamed concerts. We're so glad you're joining us again, and we hope that your new year has gotten off to a beautiful start. Something very special with this first concert that we're presenting, and it's because so many of you have written to me or let me know that you've appreciated seeing our musicians in a new way through these streamed concerts, seeing them up close in a personal way, not only in small orchestras, but also in chamber music where they can really communicate with each other. So the musicians and I thought it would be a lovely way to start this new half of the season off with a gift that gives you that chance to see them in that special way. They and I have come up with 3 wonderful pieces that they have chosen, pieces that they feel very strongly about, favorites of theirs that they really want to share with you in chamber music. And I know you're going to love them. This gives them a chance to communicate with you something that will be a little bit different than you're used to. And we're very excited about welcoming you back in this very personal way. We're going to begin with a work by Ludwig van Beethoven, his sextet for 2 horns and string quartet. Beethoven, unfortunately, didn't really have the great celebration he deserved in 2020. So our horns, Jacek Muzik and Daniel Kedelevich, thought we should continue his birthday celebration this month with this wonderful piece. It's an early piece of Beethoven. He was 25 years old, and he had moved from his birthplace and his home, Bonn, Germany, to Vienna in Austria, the center of the music world. And he was actually studying with the eminent composer Franz Joseph Haydn then, and had also immersed himself in the music of Mozart, studying every piece he could see. This piece was very likely inspired by Mozart's horn quintet. Mozart had written a quintet for a friend of his who played the horn in the key of E flat. Beethoven decided that was a great key as well. And actually the key of E flat is a key associated with nobility and grandeur, and the horn fits that somehow. He wrote it also for his friend, Nicholas Simrock, who was a childhood friend from Bonn. It's a very challenging piece. The horn parts were very difficult. Remember, the horn at that time did not have valves, which our modern horns have. It was really consisted of just coiled tubes, which were notoriously unstable in terms of control and intonation. Very, very difficult. The notes had to be principally altered by using the embouchure, the muscles of the mouth and the lips. The 2 hornists who played it then must have been great virtuosos. And we have 2 great virtuosos in our pair of horns from Poland, Jacek Muzik and Daniel Kedelevich, but we have a great string quartet as well. Shofan Liu is going to be playing the first violin, Hee Sagong, second violin, Kate Holzmer, viola, and David Schmoody on the cello. Next, a piece written 130 years later by Russian composer Sergei Prokofiev. Prokofiev had left the Soviet Union already after the revolution began, and he was living and working in Paris. In 1924, he was asked by a small traveling ballet company to compose a ballet for them. And he was intrigued. He was interested at that point in writing some chamber music. The ballet was called Trapeze, and it was to be based on life in a circus. The troupe was quite small. The little orchestra only had 5 musicians, an oboe and a clarinet, a violin, a viola, and a double bass. So Prokofiev worked with those instruments, this quintet, and he was influenced by the artistic world of Paris, which was amazing in the 1920s. He wrote a work that shows that new language because modern French composers were rebelling against the impressionism of Debussy and Ravel. They had forged a new bright language, composers like Poulenc and Milhaud and Honegger, and Prokofiev was quite interested in that sound. Unfortunately, after the piece was finished, the dancers found they couldn't dance to it. The rhythms were just too difficult for them. But Prokofiev loved this work, and he decided to turn it into a concert piece for quintet. and it has been acknowledged as one of the great masterpieces in this genre of the 20th century. Now, Brett Shurtleff, our associate principal bass, chose this piece, and I can imagine why. It's very interesting to have a piece that has strings in it that leaves out the cello, thereby leaving the bass as the only bass line of the ensemble. So an interesting chance for Brett to have that solo role. We have Henry Ward on the oboe part and Will Amsel on clarinet, Lauren Silvertrust violin, Carolyn Gilbert viola, and Brett Shurtleff on the double bass. We end the program with one of the greatest masterpieces of the chamber music literature, written by the most extraordinary composer prodigy in the history of music, and that was Felix Mendelssohn. Felix Mendelssohn was 16 years old when he wrote this octet for 4 violins, 2 violas, and 2 cellos. He wrote it as a present for his young violin teacher, Edward Reitz. Edward Reitz was only 22 years old, but he was a great virtuoso violinist, and the 2 young men were great friends. In honor of his talent, Mendelssohn created a first violin part that was soloistic and florid, really like the solo violin part of a concerto. And the string octet is a very unusual form, but Mendelssohn filled it with brilliance and imagination, using a myriad of inventive combinations of these 8 instruments. The work is emotional, filled with high spirits. It's a kind of cousin to another great piece that Mendelssohn wrote at about the same time, his incidental music to Shakespeare's play Midsummer Night's Dream, about the world of the spirits. Perhaps the most famous movement of this octet is very much like that fairy music. The scherzo, it glistens with fairy dust. Mendelssohn's sister Fanny, who was a wonderful composer herself, loved that movement, and she described it in these words. One feels so near the world of the spirits that one is carried away in the air, half inclined to snatch up a broomstick and follow the fairy procession. At the end, the violin takes flight with feather-like lightness, and all disappears. This was Mendelssohn's favorite work of all of his works, and he said that he wrote the piece with the greatest happiness. Nikki Chewy chose this, and we have our superstar string players performing it for you. Nikki Chewy, Amy Glidden, Antoine Lefebvre, Clement Liu, Carolyn Gilbert, Amya Shemetyeva, Roman McKinnoloff, and Fong Yu. We hope you enjoy this gift from our musicians.